Today, Denise and I are joined by Dr. George Ackerman. Thank you for joining to share your time and story with us today.
Thank you both for your time and the opportunity, and also your listeners. It means the world to me and my family.
So, I've got to say, your dedication to preserving your mother's memory and advocacy for awareness of Parkinson's disease, along with your drive to find a cure, is truly a testament to your love for her.
Thanks. No, I appreciate it. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, and some individuals kind of move on, but others continue to fight. And I decided to fight not just so she would be remembered, but for all the people still diagnosed, their family members, and the family members like myself, unfortunately, who are still here and still want our loved one to have a voice in this fight.
So, when did you first start to notice symptoms presenting with your mother? And perhaps we can use this as a teaching moment for those who are unfamiliar with the disease. What are some of the signs, and do they present the same between everybody, between different people?
Yeah, that's a great question. The biggest problem with Parkinson's disease is everybody's unfortunately so different. So my mother had stiffness in her left arm. So she had it for 15 years. I heard of the word Parkinson's, but we never really dove into it because she didn't really show many signs, or at least she tried to hide them, I guess. But the last 4 years is when, unfortunately, I was thrown into becoming her primary caregiver when she was rushed to the emergency room. She had gone to a special program at a university, and I think they might have drastically changed her medications. And again, I don't blame them. I blame the disease. But that night, I got called over, rushed over at 4 a.m., and she had been moving her furniture out of her home in fear that Nazis were going to harm her. And that's where I think the late onset dementia kicked in, and the hallucinations and delusions were something I can't even, it's hard to even discuss. But with Parkinson's, usually the person will have tremors. My mother didn't have the external tremors like you would see Mr. Michael J. Fox, the famous Canadian actor. He has more external, so you'll notice. So she was stressed about that because she had Parkinson's, and she was upset that nobody sometime would even understand it, or they didn't see that external. So they thought she wouldn't, they wouldn't understand what she's going through. So she struggled with internal tremors. Also, rigidity, so like stiffness in your muscles, like her left arm, bradykinesia, and postural instability, which I didn't want her to ever fall because I knew that would cause many other issues. But the biggest signs, again, with Parkinson's, and the biggest problem is every individual is so different that what happened to my mother and our journey doesn't mean it'll completely happen. So some people don't get late onset dementia just because you have Parkinson's, but a lot of the similarities are the tremors, the rigidity, something called dystonia too, where the toes curl. That's kind of in a way, the fast forward sad version. But the worst part is it's the fastest growing neurodegenerative disease in the world, and it really cripples individuals. My mother went from being able to live independently, go shopping, drive a car. So those last 4 years, she went from, again, walking 3 miles to only able to use a cane for 2 years, then from the cane to the walker, then the walker to the wheelchair, then the wheelchair to bedbound. So it was something, again, I never experienced in my life and don't want anyone else, unfortunately. We lost our battle, but there's still so many who I don't want to lose out on.
So, did you have to quit your job to become a full time caregiver, or was that a gradual process?
Yeah, it was not easy. I mean, I didn't sign up for the caregiving, and you don't take a course, as you all know, about caregiving. I just knew that my mother sacrificed a lot of her life. She was a school teacher, had a master's, and gave it all up to take care of me and my brother. And I knew if she ever needed me, and I didn't plan for it, but I knew I would have to sacrifice anything I could to help her because I'm only the man I am today, and my success because of my mother's love and support. So when it came time, it was just me, unfortunately. I mean, I was lucky I had my wife as support. She took care of our three children, and I wasn't able to be there for them at some points. But I'm lucky because I do work 24/7. That's not why I'm lucky, but I'm able to because I was a lawyer, then a police officer, and then my PhD is in criminal justice. So I'm a professor, and I'm able to teach, like move around my own schedule. So there were days where I had to wait and then stay up all night and work. So luckily, not everyone's able to do that. Also, one horrible thing, which we hopefully will have time, is the costs for people. We spent $12,000 a month the last few years for my mother because she couldn't even be left alone. Again, I didn't want her to fall. But because of the hallucinations and delusions, she feared a lot of the time, a lot of the people who came in to just make sure she didn't fall. So she would call me all hours saying they're harming her. I had to install video cameras only in special open areas, not in private like bathroom. But I did catch one. No one ever harmed her, thankfully, but one did neglect her. She didn't sleep much because of her stomach and all the medicine just destroyed her gut. And I remember one night, can't get out of my brain, but she rose up from the bed late at night, like 2 a.m., was just calling for help because she had to go to the bathroom and couldn't walk herself. And if she did, she could have fallen and hurt something. And the person was sleeping the whole time. So we actually had to fire like 15 people, 20 companies. It was not something that was easy. But, again, most people I don't think can afford 12,000 a month. Plus, that's just for people kind of, I call them babysitting because they didn't even really know what Parkinson's was themselves. And, they were just trying to be there to help. But that's not counting, entertainment, food, clothing, and shelter. So all that was extremely expensive. So my mother, unfortunately, any money she saved, was gone due to this disease. And last thing is we bought a little home to be closer to us. And I always dreamt it was beautiful, brand new. We built it from scratch. She was allowed to select things. It was like a son's dream to finally help your mother. But when I have the picture when she walked in, she was so excited that she never really got to enjoy it because that last year was the worst year of her life. And I always dreamt she'd sit in the backyard because she loved to blow bubbles with her three grandkids and enjoy the
Mm.
lake. But we never, she never unfortunately had that chance.
You said something really interesting at the onset of the call, and when we spoke briefly the other day, where you said, sometimes it's a case where something happens and somebody passes, you just move on, but you're more relentless. And for you, this was something where you're like, I'm not going to let this go. This is going to be something bigger. And this is something I wanted to continue to fight for. So we see that you've got that together for Sharon there on your shirt and up on the screen. Why don't you tell us about, what this is sort of propelled into ever since your mom's passing?
Yeah, I mean, it's gotten bigger than even me. And it's just me, but not a foundation. I'm a son who lost his best friend and his mother due to the disease, and didn't want her to be forgotten. None of it was expected. Were told by 7 or 8 doctors. Even today, people are told you don't die from Parkinson's, you die with it. So we were in, again, shock because I tried everything, and just all of a sudden out of nowhere she passed, and it was like just. I mean, it took time. It was horrible to see somebody who's very healthy. She had no other medical issues, kind of in a sad way. And I'm going to get to some positives in our talk because I don't want everyone leaving. I've already made, I think you two and others cry, which I didn't want to. But this is happening a lot. I have to figure out how to speak better and not get everyone sad because there's a lot of good things from all this. Unfortunately, not with my mother, but for other people. But she passed. We thought we would put up something quick just in her memory and a few people would see it. And just a week ago, I checked, we have over 35,000 people have visited the website, and it's been reaching around the world too. So it was really just built to be in her memory. And then I realized 2 years ago, I didn't know that there were 10 million people around the world affected by Parkinson's. And I just couldn't sleep one night, many nights, but thinking of other people. And I didn't want my mother to be forgotten, so I thought maybe this would be the best way. And then I decided it's not just about my mother and I, it's about everybody, and we're family in this fight. Even speaking with both of you and your audience means the world. I don't think it's just about a talk today and then goodbye. We're going to share it, and hopefully I'll be able to share your journey in fighting cancer. And I want an end to all diseases, not just Parkinson's. Unfortunately, that's the one that was handed to us. But so, now it's become its own world and it takes a lot of time and even before a lot of money, which we don't accept donations. So it's tough. Like, I mean, I've spent thousands and thousands and thousands, probably over 30, $40,000 the last 4 years trying to put something out. Cause if my name's on it and my mother's picture, I want it to be professional and good. But now we've gotten to the world of podcasting and it's amazing. And I've been able to reach some incredible people, but it's very expensive. So I don't really want to become a foundation because that's not what this is for. My main mission and goal is really to tell people they're never alone and that we send our love. But eventually, it might have to do something because it's tough. Like even today, I woke up, realized I'm getting all these bills. The only good news is I'm hoping, I don't want to jinx it, but this Monday, I think my book will be out finally. And it's very exciting, not because it's going to bring something, and I don't think we'll make a penny on it because I've spent a lot on that because again, you want it to come out properly. It's been harder to get it published than to even write it. And that's just because it's so complicated, but it's going to be called, or it is called, A Son's Journey from Parkinson's Disease Caregiver to Advocate in memory of my mother, Sharon. And it's exciting because it'll actually answer a lot of the questions that we talk about. Some of the chapters are the first signs, the symptoms associated, primary caregiving, my support from, there's a whole chapter on my children, and my wife even wrote a chapter about how she was affected, trying to find good aids. And the one tough one was the last week, and then the aftermath. But then the most positive thing is there is a lot of light from the darkness, which is my big message. And we have to keep fighting. But I met so many amazing people like both of you, and so many people still fighting that it still keeps me up at night. And again, I don't want to stop fighting till we find a cure. But it is tough, with the finances and things. But I did a funny thing with the math. According to the math, I'll probably make enough for maybe a mini cheeseburger. Between the government and the publishers and Amazon, all this, forget it. So it's really, my goal is it's just her story out there forever. We did copyright it and it'll be in Library of Congress. And my dream is to I'm a lawyer in DC, but I want to take my kids someday if they still have physical copies. Everything's online. And maybe show them that their grandmother will live on forever.
So your website together for Sharon.com, people can find you there along with resources, a link to this book that's going to come out this month, speeches, podcasts,
Yeah.
links to
Yeah,
your other social channels. At the end of the day, other than helping break down barriers and reduce the stigma through educating folks, and advocating for a cure, what has been the most rewarding part of this endeavor?
I think luckily, well, this month actually is Parkinson's Awareness Month, the month of April 2024. So I'm going to be at a walk for Parkinson's Walk next Sunday. I'll be at a symposium for the American Parkinson's Disease Association the week after. Then I'm flying to New York City, which everyone's welcome to come, for Michael J. Fox Foundation. It's called the Unity Walk. So this is a big month. They don't have a lot of events like we do this month. But 2 weeks ago, I was lucky and honored to be at a Michael J. Fox event, had a table, and we passed out bands and information. But I think the most touching thing, because I love virtual, because it lets me meet individuals amazing like you. And I've interviewed 600 people around the world, too, from India, England, France, Spain, Africa, Iceland. I didn't even know Iceland had Parkinson's. And that really keeps me going to see all these journeys. The only journey that breaks my heart is the one that I'm not aware of. But being literally in a room with 400 people with Parkinson's and advocates and family, and them coming up and realizing that I don't want anything but them to know I'm out there fighting for them, and then them coming and hugging me and crying, it was not easy, but that's really why I do this. And a lot of time when I do podcasts, my own, I'm doing them. My wife's in the room; she's usually working. But the people who I interview, like it's all about them, and they'll always thank me, which is beautiful. And I don't need it, but it like when she hears it, we when I'm done, it's like she comes over and says like how amazing what we're doing is changing the world for the better. So that's really what inspires me. But being with people, it's also tough because like I had an honor to meet Michael J. Fox. He's a legend and a hero to me. He's a famous actor from Back to the Future and Family Ties. And when I met him, it was like amazing, but also sad because I saw what the disease was doing to him. And I believe now, a few weeks ago, he won an award, but they had to bring him out on a wheelchair, which is tragic. But he could have just went away and just quietly let his life, but he decided to fight back too. So people like him are just heroes. But so meeting him was an incredible experience. Just the other day, yesterday, I received, I don't know if you saw I'm on every social media, I don't know why, but we received a video from Jack Osborne. It's Ozzy Osbourne's son, and he actually shout out to me and to All Together for Sharon, and it's up there now on the website. But he was amazing to talk to because Ozzy is unfortunately going through Parkinson's.
Right.
I met Jana Reno years ago, Attorney General of Florida. She passed then, but and I also was able to interview Muhammad Ali, one of his daughters. So it's growing big time because it's getting out there, and unfortunately, there's always like a moment where I don't want to sleep because I still trying to think of ways and things. But like I said earlier, unfortunately, this also is coming with a big cost, and it's hard to keep it going. I'm gonna try never to stop, but we also hand these bands out at the events, and just these bands cost $500, and I didn't want to charge people because again, that's not what my message is. So it's tough to. I'm at an interesting spot. Like I want to keep fighting, but luckily we have social media, so that's a good method. And but again, I'm really grateful for your time, your listeners, and if we even reach one person today, we've changed the world for the better.
For sure. I have to ask you, and this might just be out of sheer curiosity, but you talk about this being grassroots, started to be able to share images and stuff with your mom. And now you're saying that you're getting direct messages from people like Jack Osborne sending you messages about this. I mean, that has to take you back for you to have a bit of an, oh my goodness, look at the ripple effect that this has had kind of a moment, for relevant people.
Yeah, we went when we started. When I had the funeral, I'm the kind of person who wants to give something out to someone at a I didn't expect a funeral for my mother, but there were like I thought 10 people would show. There were like 70 or 80. It was amazing, and I put that speech I made. That was the hardest. Speak a lot, and that was the hardest speech I've ever had to do. I don't even know how I got through it. But I wanted to make something that's called the Together for Sharon Band. It just says togetherforsharon.com. Parkinson's awareness and in memory of my mother, Sharon, in the middle. And I just gave a few out, and all of a sudden, I left. So I thought I'd just go back to life sad, and it was horrible after that day. So my brother, at the time, he was dating my sister-in-law, but now they're married. So my brother-in-law, he actually took a picture of just his hand and the band, and he wasn't in it. So it's just like imagine a hand. And I like thought about it for a second, like, oh, that's cool, whatever. And then something like hit me like lightning and said, why don't I start wearing it? I was wearing it anyway, but and taking pictures. So we went to everywhere I went, from basketball court to the gym to the shopping center to Disney World. I showed people that my mother's memory's still alive. Somehow that went viral, and even Willie Geist, the famous, I think he's on NBC. His father has Parkinson's, but his wife went running and was wearing the band and talked about it, and that changed everything because all of a sudden we went crazy, and I spent a lot of money sending bands around the world. We stopped obviously because it was costly. I didn't want to take money for the band, but somebody will probably have to reach out about proper fundraising things. I just didn't want it to be about that, but so we stopped it. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely amazing, but it is still hard. I sent 15 letters to media locally and nobody responds. So you just can't get sad. You have to keep trying. I've sent 15 letters to local politicians. I'm this close to interviewing Senator Rick Scott because right now we're going through history with the National Plan to End Parkinson's Disease, which just passed December. And I hope you both and your viewers, wherever you are, will reach out to your senators and tell them, please, actually yell, don't yell, but tell them this is urgent. Like literally, we have to end Parkinson's. There's a bill coming to the Senate, and hopefully it'll pass unanimously. And it's bipartisan, so there shouldn't be any arguments because it's really the only goal is to end Parkinson's through advocacy, more research. Scientists will have more funding from the government, but we've never had anything in U.S. history, which is sad, to help those with Parkinson's and the caregivers. And this can really change the world. And sponsored, pushed through Michael J. Fox Foundation too. But we've donated about $17,000 to organizations. So somebody that does want to donate, they go to our website and click donations. But all the links are not mine. They're in memory of my mother, but they're actually for the organization. So let's say you want to donate to something called Drive Toward a Cure, which is a big organization. They're more grassroots, but they're in California, and they're actually having a big event coming. Everyone's welcome with Muhammad Ali's daughter, a different one. Also, I think Vanessa Williams will be speaking at it. There's a lot of incredible people out there, and one of the really famous race car drivers. But it's just the thing is, I think we need more awareness because there's just not enough people aware. And as you know, COVID was terrible, but we had some type of way to fight it after some time because the world was affected. And unfortunately, more and more people I meet, whether it's not them and their family, but they're meeting like neighbors and cousins and the mailman. I don't even know if they have mailmen anymore, but I remember the days of milkman, milkwoman. But those people are now getting Parkinson's, and it's horrible. I mean, I interviewed one person who. He's an incredible man, and he had to give up. He loved truck driving. That was his career, and he had to give it up because of Parkinson's. So, if it affects a person, it affects their whole family, and then that affects the society and the neighbors and the community. And I just think we would have already ended it if we had more individuals aware.
I think if we can all come together to put an end to COVID,
Yeah,
think about how well we could come together to end something like Parkinson's.
yeah,
And it's not a partisan issue, it's not a political issue, it's truly a humanitarian
mhm,
issue which affects everybody.
yeah.
Um,
I think that's the big problem is if it doesn't, I'm not going to lie. Like I said, my mother had it for many years, and I just heard the term, but didn't really learn much because I don't know if she also didn't know the gravity of the situation, or she was the kind of person that didn't want to burden everyone. So I think that was part of it. Like even today, if she was with us, she would say, "George, don't waste your time with that. Go spend your time with your family." But she raised me not to just ignore what's happening in society, and whether it was from my career trying to help family members of homicide victims, because a lot of times, unfortunately, when you have a victim of crime, the family members are now secondary victims. And I dedicated my whole life before caregiving to aiding African American mothers who lost their loved ones due to murder in West Palm Beach, Florida. And it also goes for all victims. But sadly, I think still today, a lot of the system protects a lot more of the defendants than the actual victims and actually not defendants, but those incarcerated. So it's just an interesting world. So I've really kind of correlate that world to Parkinson's because in a way, before this bill passed, which is still not even law, I feel a lot of the Parkinson's community have been like victims because they're just forgotten by society. And we're all working now, having this talk by changing that. So again, thank you both for that.
Speaking of having this talk, what do you hope people take away from this today?
I do have a message. I'm not sure if we're wrapping up, but I can just leave it for the end. But I'll say it now. My main message to everyone listening, and I say it on every talk I have: we love you, we support you, we care a lot about you, and you're never alone. We're a family in this fight. I will advocate, along with my amazing host here, for you. And together our voices are so much stronger. And I always say I'm just getting started because just talking to you makes a little light in my head jump up to have more ideas and help more people. And there's another light saying calm down because one of the keys is the self. I'm not caring now for a loved one, but unfortunately, some days my own health is deteriorating because I just feel like if I take a break for a day, I shouldn't because Parkinson's disease doesn't take a break, and we always have to be ahead of it. And I don't want more people again to have to go through this alone. So really, the main message is just you're never alone. Come to togetherforsharon.com. We don't ask for money or anything. We just want you to know there's resources where they might. When I was going through it, it was crazy. Like there's things all over the place. Now we have a lot more. 10 years later, 4 or 5, and now I have many resources, literally free if you click on partnerships, you'll see different organizations like Michael J. Fox, Davis Finney Foundation, Brian Grant Foundation. These are all incredible athletes who have Parkinson's, and people just aren't even aware. And they all offer some great things, support groups, and so many things. It's just hard because if you just go online, type it in, it's so all over the place. The one thing I am proud of, and I could be wrong, my research shows I haven't seen one book in the world yet, which is kind of very little saddening to be honest. But from a son who lost a mother due to Parkinson, so this is really going to be exciting. I'm praying by Monday. I'll take you inside the mind of a soon-to-be author. But we actually we proofed it, we sent it, and I'm getting my first copy on Thursday. So I'm not going to sleep till Thursday. Not that I'll sleep anywhere. I'm just excited because I want my mother's story to be told. I'm going to be following it up with another one. That'll be more controversial because this book is dedicated in memory of my mother, but to everyone diagnosed today and their caregivers. But I don't want to talk too much, but I feel like the next book will probably be called A Seat at the Table, and it has two meanings. Some days I feel like I'm still not welcome at the table, unfortunately, anymore, advocacy, because I'm not diagnosed, and I no longer have a loved one alive, but I'm still a person. My mother still is a voice, and we still matter. And my next book, which is done, but I'm going to take some time to read it over and edit, but it's going to be two meanings again. Sometimes I don't feel like I have a seat at the table, and on the alternative part is at holidays, there's this empty seat at the table because my mother is in here. So, there's always something. I didn't want to write that book, but it just came to me after something happened. And you have the lesson for the next book, which I shouldn't get to yet, but never let anyone, if there's one person out there, whether it's yourself trying to battle you and your inner self, or somebody out there just not nice, because social media, you're going to find one wacky person out of a million, but you never let that one deter you from all the other great stories. So never stop and always keep fighting.
Well, Dr. George Ackerman, we want to thank you for being so dedicated and caring about your mother's memory, for advocating for Parkinson's disease. I'm sure your mother's very proud of you. And we also want to say the work you're doing is incredible. Keep it up, and really just thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you. You're doing
Thank you.
great work.
Well, thank you both. And like I said, we actually started, not we, I always say we, it's just me. It sounds better, but I started also expanding our interviews on other areas, not just Parkinson's, like dementia, cancer, because it's also many other journeys. Even if I didn't go through that, I still want individuals like you to always be remembered or for your fight. And, we're all family in this, and I'm really grateful for both of you. And hopefully this is not the last talk we have, and I'll be sharing it around the world. And I wish everybody out there good health and our love and support. And again, we're all, including everyone here, just an email away if you ever need anything. So thank you again.
Very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.